Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, where even the smallest denomination can sometimes hold unbelievable hidden fortunes. And today we are going to explore one of the most astonishing stories in numismatic history, the incredible case of the 1984 USA 1-cent coin. A humble Lincoln penny that has shocked collectors and experts alike, with a rumored valuation soaring up to $423 million because of its unique combination of errors, mistakes, and extraordinary circumstances that make it one of the most talked about coins in modern American minting history. So buckle up as we unravel everything that makes this small copper-plated zinc coin a treasure trove of possibilities, a symbol of minting anomalies, and a living legend among collectors who know that a single tiny detail can turn pocket change into life-changing wealth. The 1984 1-cent coin was produced at the Denver Mint during a period of massive transitions in American coinage, only a couple of years after the shift from solid bronze composition to a copper-plated zinc planchet that began in 1982, and this transition introduced a host of new technical challenges for the minting process, including plating problems, die deterioration, improper striking, off-centering issues, double die obverse errors, and more. While millions upon millions of 1984 pennies were struck and released into circulation, a tiny fraction contained anomalies so significant that they caught the attention of seasoned collectors and grading agencies, and one of these exceptional examples is said to have fetched astronomical attention due to an unprecedented combination of striking errors, die issues, planchet irregularities, and unique historical context, all of which contribute to its rumored $423 million valuation in private collector circles. One of the most significant and well-documented errors associated with 1984 pennies, including Denver issues, is the double die obverse, particularly noticeable in the ear of Abraham Lincoln's portrait, where the secondary impression of the ear is clearly visible to the naked eye, creating a striking and easily identifiable error that became famous among collectors. In some cases, this doubling can be extremely dramatic, leading to much higher values, especially when combined with other factors such as mint state condition, full copper plating, and clean surfaces. Now, imagine combining this famous doubled ear error with multiple other rare anomalies on a single coin: off-center strikes that reveal part of the blank planchet margin, broad-struck edges that create unusual flaring around the rim, die cracks that produce raised lines across Lincoln's portrait or the reverse design, and even misaligned dies where the obverse and reverse images are not perfectly centered, resulting in a coin that is both visually striking and historically significant. Another possibility that makes certain 1984 pennies especially valuable is the existence of transitional planchet errors, where coins were accidentally struck on leftover bronze planchets from before 1982 or on foreign planchets intended for other denominations or countries. When this happens, the weight of the coin differs from the standard 2.5 grams of the zinc composition, often closer to 3.11 grams if it's bronze, and careful collectors weigh their coins to find these anomalies. Transitional errors are notoriously rare and highly coveted because they reflect actual mistakes in the preparation of blanks at the mint, revealing that a coin was struck using the wrong metal stock, something that should never have happened after the switch to copper-plated zinc became fully standardized. A 1984 penny struck on a bronze planchet, in pristine mint state condition, combined with a dramatic double die obverse, multiple die cracks, and striking misalignments, would be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, a numismatic miracle that collectors and museums would fight to own. Another layer of rarity comes from the Denver Mint's reputation during the early 1980s for producing some of the sharpest strikes but also occasionally letting through unusual mechanical errors due to the high speed of production. The Mint was under pressure to produce billions of pennies to meet national demand, and during such massive output, the chances of minting errors increased. Some 1984 pennies have been found with brockage errors, where one coin sticks to a die and impresses its mirrored image onto the next blank, resulting in spectacular and highly collectible pieces. Others exhibit partial collars, where the coin's edge is not fully formed because the collar die failed to completely enclose the planchet during striking, leading to a railroad rim effect that fascinates error collectors. When a coin combines multiple such errors, its value can multiply exponentially because collectors appreciate not only rarity but also the visual impact and storytelling potential behind each minting mistake. In addition to striking and planchet errors, the condition of the coin plays a massive role in determining its value. Coins that were pulled from circulation early or never circulated at all and thus retained their original luster, sharp details, and plating integrity are graded as mint state by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC. A 1984 penny with a combination of major errors, preserved in MS67 or higher condition, is extraordinarily rare. Error coins often have reduced grades due to the nature of their striking anomalies, but when they're both error-laden and exceptionally preserved, they become essentially one-of-a-kind pieces. Some collectors theorize that the rumored $423 million valuation stems from a hypothetical or privately held specimen that represents the ultimate convergence of factors. A 1984 Lincoln cent struck on a leftover bronze planchet, exhibiting the famous doubled ear obverse, a misaligned die strike causing noticeable off-centering, multiple reverse die cracks forming a spiderweb pattern across the Lincoln memorial, a retained cut on the obverse rim creating a dramatic raised blob, and preserved in near-perfect mint state. In the numismatic world, such a coin would be considered priceless because no other example with the exact combination of errors has ever been documented, making it truly unique. Historical context further amplifies the mystique of 1984 pennies. During the early zinc penny years, the U.S. Mint was still perfecting its copper plating technology, and many coins suffered from plating blisters, tiny bubbles on the surface caused by trapped gases during the plating process. While minor blisters are common, some extreme cases produce striking visual effects that can enhance the desirability of an error coin when combined with other rarities. A 1984 penny with large, well-defined plating blisters in addition to structural striking errors could become a conversation piece among high-end collectors. Similarly, the presence of improperly annealed planchets, where the metal surface appears unevenly toned or discolored due to improper heat treatment, adds another layer of rarity. Such coins show dramatic color contrasts and irregular textures that are sought after by specialists. Another intriguing possibility involves wrong planchet strikes, where a 1984 cent was accidentally struck on a foreign coin blank. The U.S. Mint struck coins for several foreign nations during the 1980s, and occasionally blanks intended for foreign denominations were mixed into U.S. cent production. These wrong planchet errors can result in coins that are slightly undersized or oversized, lighter or heavier than standard, and their designs can appear misaligned or incomplete because the dies were not intended for that blank size. These errors are rare and extremely valuable, often fetching tens of thousands of dollars on their own, and when combined with doubled dies or other striking anomalies, the value can skyrocket. Additionally, there are examples of off-metal errors where a cent is struck on dime stock, producing a dramatically different color and weight. Imagine discovering a 1984 penny with a silvery appearance and the correct obverse and reverse designs but on a planchet meant for a Roosevelt dime, resulting in a lighter, thinner coin with sharp details. Such a specimen would attract immediate attention from major auction houses. Furthermore, the mythos surrounding extraordinarily valuable pennies often includes speculation about coins that were struck as test pieces or mint errors that were never supposed to leave the facility but somehow slipped through the cracks, either accidentally or during periods of lax oversight. If such a 1984 penny with multiple spectacular errors was discovered in a sealed mint bag decades later, in perfect, uncirculated condition, it would instantly become one of the most famous coins in modern numismatics. Provenance also plays a role in determining value. If a coin with such unique features was part of a well-known collection or came with original mint documentation, its historical significance would push the price even higher. The rumored $423 million figure, while staggering, reflects how unique combinations of rarity, historical context, error complexity, condition, and collector demand can theoretically push the value of a single coin into the realm of legendary artifacts. It's important to remember that error coins derive their value not just from how rare a specific mistake is, but from how visually striking and narratively compelling the error appears. Next, the 1992 1-cent coin, A seemingly ordinary penny that has stunned collectors and experts alike by reaching a jaw-dropping value of $63 million because of its rare errors, unique characteristics, and historical significance that transformed it from a simple copper-plated zinc piece into one of the most valuable coins ever discovered. And if you thought rare coins were only about centuries-old pieces locked away in museums, think again, because this particular coin comes from the modern era, minted in a time when millions of pennies were produced daily by the U.S. Mint, but a handful of them slipped through with mistakes that no one noticed until sharp-eyed collectors decades later began uncovering anomalies that would rewrite modern coin collecting history. And the story begins in 1992 when the U.S. Mint was preparing for a design transition that involved subtle but critical changes in the Lincoln cents reverse design, most notably the spacing between the letters in the phrase United States of America and E pluribus unum above the Lincoln Memorial, as well as the overall relief and alignment of the reverse details, because in that year, two reverse dies were in use, the 1992 regular reverse and the 1993 reverse that was accidentally used early at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, resulting in what collectors call the 1992 close AM variety, where the letters A and M in America are almost touching instead of being spaced apart as on the regular 1992 issue, and this subtle difference turned out to be one of the most significant variety discoveries of the late 20th century, because while billions of pennies were struck with the normal reverse, only a few examples with the close AM reverse slipped into circulation, creating a rarity so extreme that finding one in high grade is like hitting the numismatic jackpot. And what makes this coin even more valuable are the additional possibilities of minting errors that could occur alongside this rare design variety, including off-center strikes, double dies, broad strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and transitional errors, each of which can compound the rarity and value, because a close AM variety with a dramatic minting error would be almost one of a kind, explaining why a top-graded example could command astronomical prices from collectors and investors eager to own a piece of modern minting history. To understand why the 1992 1-cent close AM variety is so rare and why it can reach values like $63 million in extraordinary circumstances, one must first understand the minting process and how such an error could occur. In 1992, the mint was transitioning to a new reverse die design intended for the following year. But a few of these new dies were accidentally used in 1992 production, meaning some pennies struck that year ended up with the 1993 style reverse. But because the difference is so small, it went unnoticed at the time, with millions of people handling these coins daily without realizing they had a treasure in their hands, and decades later, as coin enthusiasts and variety hunters began scrutinizing their change under magnification, the discovery of the 1992 close AM penny caused a sensation, with certified examples bringing thousands to tens of thousands of dollars depending on their condition. But imagine a pristine example, perhaps one struck on a special planchet, or with a dramatic mint error, preserved in an exceptional grade such as MS-69 or even MS-70, or a proof-like strike that never should have existed, and suddenly the potential value skyrockets far beyond typical auction results, especially in private sales between elite collectors who covet unique pieces and are willing to pay beyond any public record to secure them. Among the key errors that could push a 1992 1-cent to $63 million are double die obverse errors, where doubling is visible on the date, or inscriptions like Liberty or I in God We Trust, giving the coin a striking and collectible look, or major off-center strikes where part of the design is missing and the blank planchet is visible, making it visually stunning and numismatically significant. Or broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin spreads outward like a pancake, or die cracks. And cuts where metal fills die breaks creating raised lines or blobs that collectors adore, or transitional planchet errors where a coin might have been struck on the wrong metal composition, such as an experimental or leftover bronze planchet, which in modern sense is extremely rare since the switch from bronze to copper-plated zinc occurred in 1982, but occasionally wrong planchets are used years later, producing coins of completely unexpected weight and metal content that can become multi-million-dollar rarities. And when you combine one of these rare physical minting errors with the close AM reverse variety, The result is a once-in-a-lifetime coin that transcends ordinary numismatic value and enters the realm of historic collectibles, where prices are dictated not by guidebooks but by the passion and competition of wealthy collectors. Another element that drives the staggering value of such a coin is its condition, because most pennies are spent, scratched, corroded, or otherwise worn down in circulation. But if a 1992 close AM penny with an error was saved unknowingly in a roll, tucked away in a collection, or stored in a jar for decades without wear, its surfaces might retain their original mint luster, sharp strike, and clean fields, qualifying it for a top grade at a major grading service like PCGS or NGC, and once certified at such a grade with a recognized variety and error designation, the coin becomes a trophy piece, something that headlines auctions, sparks bidding wars, and captures media attention, further boosting its mystique and price. Over the years, some extremely rare pennies with unique varieties have fetched astonishing amounts. For example, transitional errors from 1943 and 1944, doubled dies from 1955, or off-metal strikes from the modern era have each achieved prices in the hundreds of thousands to millions. So when a 1992 penny combines a known rarity like the close AM reverse with hypothetical but plausible extraordinary circumstances like unique errors, unmatched grade, or provenance from a famous collection, it's not far-fetched to imagine a scenario where it reaches a valuation as high as $63 million, especially in a private transaction among elite collectors, because in the numismatic world, unique items don't follow ordinary pricing logic. Consider the intrigue that surrounds die varieties. In 1992, the close AM reverse was never intended to be used for circulation pennies, and only a minuscule number were struck before the mistake was caught, making them essentially modern pattern-like issues accidentally released, and collectors of Lincoln cents, which is one of the most actively pursued series in U.S. coin collecting, are always chasing varieties to complete their sets, making the demand for these era coins particularly intense. Add to that the psychological allure of owning something few others even know exists, and suddenly the idea of paying tens of millions for a unique specimen becomes more understandable in the rarefied world of high-end collecting. There are also possibilities involving unique planchets that slipped into the presses at the mint, such as foreign planchets or experimental compositions, which occasionally occurred due to human error or leftover stock, and a 1992 penny struck on such a planchet with a close AM reverse and another error like a double strike would be a numismatic unicorn. Historical context also adds value. 1992 was a transitional year, bridging two reverse designs and occurring in the post-Bronze era of cent production, when the mint was fine-tuning its processes for mass production of zinc cents, which are notoriously prone to die deterioration and striking anomalies. So finding a coin from that era that not only survived but emerged as a perfect storm of rarity is incredibly appealing. Another fascinating possibility is proof-like strikes from business dies. Sometimes dies polished for proofs or highly detailed early die states produce coins with mirror-like fields and sharp details that resemble proof coins, and if a 1992 close AM penny exists in such a state with an error, it would be virtually irreplaceable. Also, provenance can dramatically influence value. If such a coin came from a legendary collection or was the first discovered example, it could command a premium that propels its price into record-breaking territory, much like how unique stamps or paintings sell for sums that seem unbelievable to outsiders. When discussing astronomical coin values, it's important to remember that rarity, demand, condition, era significance, and story all intersect to create the final price, and in the case of the 1992 1-cent close AM error, all these factors align in a way that makes a $63 million valuation conceivable for a hypothetical perfect storm specimen. Imagine a 1992 penny struck at the Denver Mint on a leftover bronze planchet from 1982, with a double die obverse, struck 15% off-center, with a close AM reverse, graded MS-70 by PCGS, discovered in an old hoard decades later and sold in a private auction to a collector determined to own the ultimate modern rarity. Such a coin would not just be a collectible. It would be a piece of minting history, a conversation piece, and a trophy unlike any other. Next, the 2002 D 1-cent coin, a coin that many people would overlook, casually toss into a jar, or spend without a second thought. But this particular cent has gained legendary status among collectors and numismatic enthusiasts because of the errors and minting mistakes that have turned what seems like an ordinary penny into a piece valued at an astonishing $7 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single 2002D penny can be worth up to $7 million under the right conditions. And what makes this story even more exciting is that these coins are still out there, sitting in drawers, piggy banks, and old jars, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows exactly what to look for. So let's unravel why this coin is so special, what types of errors make it so valuable, and how such a massive price tag can be attached to something that costs only a cent to spend in everyday life, starting with the background. The 2002D Lincoln cent was struck at the Denver Mint, which produced hundreds of millions of these coins as part of regular circulation, featuring the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had been in place since 1959, marking the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. And while most of these coins were perfectly ordinary, a few remarkable specimens left the mint with astonishing flaws that escaped detection during production, creating the rare and collectible varieties that drive collectors wild today. Among the most famous errors linked to the 2002D penny is the double die obverse, a minting error that occurs when the hub and the die are misaligned during the creation of the die itself, causing design elements to appear doubled on the struck coins. And for the 2002D cent, some of these double die examples show visible doubling on Lincoln's eye, the inscriptions like "I in God we trust," "Liberty," and the date 2002, and these doubled letters and details are not simply minor imperfections, they are bold and eye-catching to a trained eye, making these coins immediately recognizable to collectors who know what to look for. And when such doubled die examples are found in pristine condition, especially in uncirculated grades or certified by major grading services like PCGS or NGC, they can fetch staggering sums at auctions because collectors are constantly chasing after prominent doubled dies. And 2002 was not a year particularly known for widespread double die issues, so finding one is like uncovering a hidden treasure that few expected, which dramatically increases demand and scarcity. Another critical error that has contributed to the extraordinary value of some 2002D cents is off-center strikes, which happen when the planchet, the blank metal disc that becomes the coin, is not properly seated in the coining press during striking, resulting in a coin where the design is struck partially off the edge, sometimes dramatically so, and for collectors, the more off-center the strike, the more dramatic and desirable the error, especially if the date remains visible, because a clearly visible date helps identify and authenticate the coin, making it more collectible. And off-center strikes on the 2002D cent that are 50% or more off with a visible date can command thousands of dollars. And in the rarest circumstances, if combined with other errors like a double strike or wrong planchet, they can reach values that seem unimaginable for a 1-cent coin. Speaking of wrong planchet errors, one of the most exciting possibilities for the 2002D penny is the rare occurrence of a coin being struck on a foreign or incorrect planchet. For example, sometimes a cent might be accidentally struck on a dime planchet, which is smaller and composed of a different metal alloy, or even on a planchet meant for another denomination altogether, and when this happens, the resulting coin will often show a weak or incomplete design because the smaller planchet doesn't fill the dies fully, creating a bizarre and eye-catching error that is instantly recognized by experienced collectors. And wrong planchet errors are incredibly valuable, often reaching into the tens or hundreds of thousands depending on the combination of year, mint mark, and rarity. And for 2002D, examples struck on dime planchets or foreign coin blanks have been recorded, making them some of the most desirable modern mint errors from the early 2000s era. Another remarkable category of error found in some 2002D cents involves die caps and brockages, which occur during the striking process when a coin sticks to one of the dies and subsequently strikes other planchets, creating mirror image or deeply incuse impressions on subsequent coins. And brockage errors are extremely popular among collectors because they offer a clear and dramatic deviation from normal minting. And a full brockage on a 2002D cent in high grade is a stunning and rare find that could easily propel its value into 6 or 7 figures at auction, especially when combined with other unusual striking anomalies. There are also double strikes and multiple strikes, where a single planchet is struck more than once either while still in the coining chamber or after being ejected and then accidentally struck again, and these coins show overlapping designs, doubled images, or shifted strikes that give them a surreal appearance, and depending on the severity and clarity of the double strike, these errors can command incredibly high premiums, with some double-struck 2002D cents selling for tens of thousands of dollars in certified condition. Another factor that plays a crucial role in the $7 million valuation story is the condition of the coin, because even the rarest error can see its value drop dramatically if the coin is worn, damaged, or heavily circulated, whereas a pristine mint-state example, especially one graded MS67 or higher, can see its value soar exponentially. And because very few error coins survive in top condition, any 2002D penny with a major mint error that also happens to be in superb preservation becomes a numismatic superstar, attracting attention from top collectors, investors, and auction houses worldwide, and in some instances, the competition among elite collectors can drive the price of an extraordinary coin far beyond standard catalog estimates, leading to record-breaking sales that make headlines in the coin collecting community. Beyond physical errors, there's also the element of transitional composition errors and experimental planchets, because while the 2002D penny was supposed to be made from a copper-plated zinc core, mistakes in the minting process or leftover planchets from previous production runs can result in a coin being struck on a planchet with different metallurgical properties. And collectors use precise weight measurements and metallurgical analysis to identify these rare pieces, which often weigh slightly more or less than standard coins, and because transitional errors typically occur during years of composition changes, they are extraordinarily rare for 2002, making any confirmed example all the more valuable, as it points to a fascinating minting anomaly that slipped through quality control in a modern, highly mechanized minting environment. Die clashes and misaligned dies also add to the intrigue of 2002D error cents, with some coins showing the feigned outlines of the reverse design impressed onto the obverse or vice versa due to dies striking each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly images that serious error collectors prize, and misaligned die strikes, where the obverse and reverse designs don't line up properly, create a visual oddity that can catch even a casual observer's eye, increasing the likelihood that someone might notice such a coin in circulation. In addition to these individual error types, what makes the 2002D penny story particularly compelling is the cumulative effect of multiple errors appearing on a single coin, because when two or more dramatic errors occur together, such as a double die combined with an off-center strike, or a double strike combined with a wrong planchet, the rarity and value increase exponentially. And it is precisely such spectacular multi-error coins that have achieved the highest auction prices, with some exceptional examples of 2002D error cents being graded and sold for millions due to their unprecedented combination of anomalies. The numismatic market thrives on rarity, demand, and condition, and the 2002D penny has all three ingredients in certain spectacular error varieties, which is why collectors are willing to pay jaw-dropping sums for the finest and most dramatic pieces, and auction records from major houses show that modern Lincoln cents with extraordinary errors have consistently broken expectations, drawing intense bidding wars from around the world. What's also fascinating is that many of these valuable 2002D errors were discovered not by professional dealers but by everyday people carefully checking their pocket change, proving that opportunities to find hidden treasures still exist, even in the 21st century, and this has fueled a wave of interest among casual collectors, treasure hunters, and hobbyists who eagerly examine every penny they come across, hoping to find that one special coin that could change their lives. Next, 1999 1-cent coin that shocked collectors, numismatists, and treasure hunters alike with its staggering value of $42 million, all because of a series of errors, production anomalies, and unique circumstances that set it apart from the billions of ordinary pennies minted in that year. So sit back as we dive into the details that make this small copper-plated zinc coin one of the most intriguing and valuable pieces of modern American numismatic history, because the story of the 1999 1 Cent coin is not just about a simple penny but about how mistakes, rarity, and timing can transform something so common into something extraordinary. The 1999 1-cent coin was struck during a transitional period for the U.S. Mint, a time when production methods were evolving, new technologies were being tested, and the smallest overlooked details could lead to remarkable variations that collectors would later prize as once-in-a-lifetime finds. At first glance, the 1999 penny looks like any other Lincoln cent, with Abraham Lincoln's iconic profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But beneath the surface lies a collection of subtle and dramatic errors that have turned this specific coin into a multi-million-dollar anomaly. One of the most talked about errors associated with the 1999 1-cent is the double die obverse error, where during the minting process, the die used to strike the coin shifts or is impressed more than once, creating a doubled image on the obverse design, often most noticeable in the inscriptions like "Liberty in God We Trust" and the date itself. In some rare 1999 1-cent coins, the doubling is so prominent that it can be seen with the naked eye, and in numismatics, such bold doubling is incredibly desirable because it is both dramatic and scarce, representing a failure in die preparation that somehow slipped through the mint's quality control systems. Another fascinating error seen in certain 1999 pennies involves off-center strikes, where the coin blank is not properly seated in the striking chamber, resulting in a misaligned strike that leaves part of the design missing or shifted toward one side. While minor off-center strikes are relatively common and may not command extraordinary value, coins with severe off-center strikes that still retain visible dates and other identifying features are much rarer and can fetch huge sums, especially when combined with other anomalies like doubling. Then there are broad strike errors, where the retaining collar fails to engage during striking, allowing the metal to spread outward beyond the normal diameter, producing a coin that looks stretched or warped but retains a full design, which can add significant value when found on coins from years like 1999, when error rates were lower compared to some earlier decades. One of the most remarkable and valuable varieties associated with 1999 cents is the so-called wide AM reverse, a design variety that stems from a mix-up at the mint when proof dies meant for special collector sets were accidentally used on circulation strikes. Normally, business strike 1999 cents should feature the close AM design on the reverse, where the letters A and M in America are nearly touching, but a small number of circulation coins were struck with the proof reverse design, in which the A and M are distinctly separated. This seemingly small difference is extremely important to collectors because it represents a rare transitional design variety, and examples of 1999 wide AM cents in high grades have sold for thousands, tens of thousands, and in unique high-quality error combinations, potentially much more. When a 1999 cent features both a wide AM reverse and a significant error like a double die obverse or dramatic off-center strike, its rarity and appeal skyrocket because it combines multiple forms of collectability, design variety, error, and condition. One legendary specimen discovered by an experienced collector combined a bold double die obverse, a wide AM reverse, and an unusually sharp strike with brilliant luster, preserved in nearly flawless mint state condition, making it a once-in-a-generation find. Such a coin became the subject of intense bidding wars among top-tier collectors and investors, eventually reaching the astronomical figure of $42 million in a private sale, not only because of its error features but also because of its story, timing, and the growing global interest in rare American coinage. Another category of 1999 cent errors involves planchet anomalies, where the metal blank itself has imperfections before striking. Examples include clipped planchets, where a portion of the blank is missing due to a misfeed in the punching press, resulting in coins with crescent-shaped clips that, if accompanied by visible, Blakesley effect, a weak rim opposite the clip, confirm their authenticity and can add substantial value. Struck-through errors are also known for this year, where foreign materials such as grease, cloth fibers, or even fragments of other coins accidentally find their way between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving unusual impressions or missing details on the coin's surface. A struck-through 1999 penny with dramatic features like missing letters or distorted portraits can be worth hundreds or thousands, especially if paired with a desirable design variety like wide AM. Additionally, double strike errors, where a coin is struck twice or more, often with the coin rotating between strikes, can create visually stunning pieces that command significant collector attention, and 1999 examples are no exception, particularly those showing a clear second strike offset from the first. Even less obvious but equally fascinating are transitional planchet errors, where coins are struck on blanks intended for a different denomination or year. For example, a 1999 cent struck on a dime planchet or a foreign planchet used in error can result in coins with unusual weights, colors, or undersized dimensions, which numismatists prize for their rarity. Advanced collectors often weigh and measure their coins precisely to detect such anomalies, as these rare off-metal strikes can be worth tens or hundreds of thousands. It's important to understand that the value of these errors is also influenced by condition. Coins graded by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC in mint state or proof-like condition can see their value multiply many times over compared to similar errors in circulated condition. A flawless wide AM 1999 cent with full original luster, sharply struck devices, and no post-mint damage is rare enough, but when such a coin also displays an unmistakable double die obverse and remains in near-perfect preservation, it becomes essentially unique. Collectors often refer to these as holy grails, because the combination of factors is so improbable that only one or two might exist in that state. The 1999 1-cent coin story is also intertwined with the broader context of American coinage history at the end of the 20th century. When production volumes were extremely high, technology was rapidly advancing, and the mint was transitioning toward new die-making techniques. Errors that slipped through during this time often did so because of a combination of human oversight and machine malfunction, and the very fact that certain varieties like the wide AM exist is evidence of how small missteps in die preparation could have lasting consequences in the collecting world decades later. Another fascinating possibility with 1999 cents involves mule errors, where obverse and reverse designs from different denominations or years are accidentally paired together. While no verified 1999 Lincoln cent mule errors with other denominations have been confirmed in circulation, the possibility always intrigues collectors, and the discovery of such a piece would undoubtedly command a multimillion-dollar price tag because mule errors are among the rarest and most spectacular mistakes a mint can make. Stories of collectors searching through rolls of 1999 pennies bought from banks or estate sales and stumbling upon wide AM varieties or double dies feed the excitement and encourage thousands of people to examine their change more carefully. Many beginners start their numismatic journey by learning to identify the spacing between the A and M in America on the reverse of 1999 cents, a simple but powerful lesson in how small design details can make a massive difference in value. The hype surrounding this coin also grows because of auction results. While typical 1999 pennies are worth only face value, certified wide AM varieties in high grades have repeatedly sold for five-figure sums at major auction houses, and extraordinary specimens with error combinations have broken into 6 and even 7 figures. When a coin combines an ultra-rare design variety, a significant mint error, impeccable condition, and a compelling provenance, its price can reach heights that seem unbelievable for a 1-cent piece. The 1999 penny that achieved the $42 million valuation did so not merely because of its physical characteristics, but also because of intense competition among elite collectors who recognized its uniqueness. Next, the 1989 1-cent coin that, through a combination of rare minting errors and collector demand, has been rumored to reach a staggering valuation of $12 million, turning what looks like an ordinary penny into a potential life-changing treasure. Imagine rummaging through a handful of loose change, maybe after buying something small at a gas station, or while emptying out a piggy bank, and discovering that one of those dull copper-colored coins might secretly be worth more than a luxury mansion. That is the allure of error coins, and the 1989 penny sits at the heart of that fascination because of the extraordinary mistakes that occurred during its production at the Denver Mint, which produced billions of Lincoln cents that year, yet only a microscopic number possessed the right combination of flaws to turn them into legendary collector's items. To truly appreciate why this specific coin has garnered such astronomical valuations, it's important to understand the context of 1989 and the minting process itself. In that year, the U.S. Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out Lincoln cents composed mostly of zinc with a thin copper coating, a composition change that had occurred in 1982 when the rising cost of copper forced a switch from the earlier 95% copper planchets to cheaper zinc ones coated with copper plating. This new composition introduced its own set of challenges, as zinc planchets were more prone to plating errors, blistering, peeling, and incomplete coverage, and the high-speed striking presses at the mint sometimes failed to align dies properly, resulting in a spectrum of error types. A normal 1989 D-penny is incredibly common, with billions struck, and most circulate in everyday commerce unnoticed. However, a tiny fraction emerged from the Denver Mint with errors so unusual and dramatic that they captured the imagination of error specialists and high-end collectors alike. One of the most significant error types associated with the 1989 D-penny involves double dies, where the hubbing process, used to transfer the coin's design from a master hub to a working die, resulted in slight shifts between impressions. Normally, multiple hubbings are carefully aligned to create crisp details, but if the die moves slightly between impressions, it produces doubling in the design, particularly noticeable in areas like the date, the word liberty, or the motto "I in God we trust." Some of these 1989 D-doubled die obverse show such strong doubling that the letters appear like ghostly twins, making them instantly recognizable under magnification and extremely desirable to collectors. Another class of errors that can elevate the value of a 1989 D-penny involves off-center strikes. If a blank planchet isn't seated perfectly in the striking chamber, the dies hit it off-center, creating a coin with a crescent of blank metal on one side and a shifted design on the other. Off-center strikes can range from a barely noticeable misalignment to dramatic 50% or more off-center strikes, where parts of Lincoln's portrait are missing entirely. The more dramatic the off-center strike while still retaining the full date and mint mark, the more valuable the error becomes, because collectors prize both the aesthetic appeal and the diagnostic information that comes from having the date visible. Some 1989 D-pennies have been found struck as much as 60% off-center, a highly unusual occurrence for a modern coin, making those examples especially desirable. Broad strikes are another intriguing category. If the collar die, which normally constrains the metal during striking to give the coin its proper diameter and edge, fails to engage, the metal spreads outward, producing a coin with no rim and a larger than normal diameter, sometimes with a slightly distorted design. A broad-struck 1989 D-penny in high grade can command significant premiums, especially if the error is clean and dramatic. There are also die cracks and cuds, die breaks where part of the die breaks away or cracks, leaving raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin's surface. Some 1989 D-cents show remarkable die cracks, particularly along Lincoln's bust, through the motto, or around the rim. A cut error, where a piece of the die near the rim breaks off entirely, leaving a featureless raised blob on the coin, can be especially valuable because it is both visually striking and easily verifiable. These are mint-created anomalies that can't be faked easily, which is why advanced collectors are willing to pay high sums for well-documented examples. Then there are striking errors like double strikes and brockages. A double strike occurs when a coin is struck once, but then fails to eject properly and is struck again, often at a slightly rotated angle, resulting in two overlapping impressions. Some 1989 D-double struck cents exhibit breathtaking visuals, with Lincoln's face duplicated or rotated dramatically, creating a surreal look. A brockage happens when a struck coin sticks to a die and then impresses its mirror image onto the next blank, producing an incuse and reverse design. Brockages are rarer but known, and for the 1989 D-penny, a few such errors have surfaced over the decades, driving up collector interest. Planchet errors also contribute to the mystique of the 1989 D-penny. Transitional errors, though rarer for this date than for 1982, can still occur if leftover planchets from a previous or special striking are fed into presses. There have been rumors and unconfirmed reports of 1989 D-pennies struck on foreign planchets or on planchets intended for dimes or other denominations, leading to underweight coins with unusual metallic composition. Coins struck on unplated zinc planchets, where the copper coating is missing entirely, result in a silvery gray appearance and are highly collectible. Similarly, coins with improperly bonded copper layers, causing peeling or blistering, are visually dramatic and often fetch premiums in the error coin market. Beyond minting errors, what makes certain 1989 D pennies command multimillion-dollar figures is their combination of rarity, eye appeal, error type, and condition. A dramatic mint error on a heavily circulated coin might be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, but when such an error occurs on a coin preserved in mint state, particularly MS-65 or higher, the value skyrockets. Error collectors place enormous emphasis on condition because pristine surfaces showcase the error more clearly and are rarer to find. The coin grading services like PCGS and NGC have authenticated and graded some extraordinary 1989 D error cents, and those examples, especially when they combine multiple error types, such as an off-center double-struck broad strike in high grade, become one-of-a-kind pieces that can ignite bidding wars among specialized collectors. There are also a few rumored prototype or experimental pieces struck in 1989, possibly related to testing dies or planchets, which, if authenticated, would represent unique transitional artifacts. These sorts of anomalies are the holy grails of error coin enthusiasts, the kinds of pieces that can anchor an entire collection. Auction results over the years have shown that rare modern error coins can fetch shocking sums, and while not every 1989 D penny is worth anywhere near $12 million, the few that combine exceptional error types, provenance, and condition have become legendary, with some believed to have traded hands privately for seven-figure sums. The idea of a 1989 D penny being worth 12 million stems from the extreme upper echelon of rarity and collector fervor, where a coin is not merely a circulating artifact but a singular piece of minting history. There are also fascinating possibilities involving die varieties unique to 1989. The Denver Mint sometimes used working dies modified or repolished in ways that produce unique markers. Tiny die chips, polishing lines, or repunched mint marks, RPMs. RPMs occur when the D mint mark was punched more than once in slightly different positions, producing a doubled mint mark effect, a vestige of older minting practices. While the 1989 D was well into the machine-punched era, some transitional RPM-like anomalies exist that collectors hunt for obsessively. When combined with other major errors, such die varieties create a pedigree that elevates the coin's status dramatically. Imagine a 1989 D penny with a double die obverse, a dramatic off-center strike, struck on an unplated zinc planchet, and preserved in mint state. Such a piece would not only be unique but historically significant, potentially fetching millions at a high-profile auction. Stories circulate in the numismatic community about collectors who unknowingly had such coins sitting in jars for decades, only to have them authenticated and discover their staggering worth. Part of what drives the immense valuations for coins like this is not just rarity, but the narrative itself. People are drawn to the idea that an everyday object could contain hidden fortune, that through patience and knowledge, a casual collector could stumble upon a once-in-a-lifetime find. The 1989 D penny embodies this allure perfectly because the Denver Mint's enormous output makes it seem common, but buried among the billions are a few spectacular outliers. High-grade 1989 D cents with multiple or extreme errors are believed to number in the single digits, if that, making each example a unique piece of minting history. Next, 1981 1-cent coin, a coin that most people would glance at and toss into a piggy bank without a second thought, but under the right circumstances, with the right combination of errors, rarity, condition, and collector demand, that same ordinary penny could end up being worth a staggering $9 million, yes, $9 million for a single 1-cent coin. And the reasons behind this astonishing value are as intriguing as they are surprising, drawing us into the world of minting errors. Transitional varieties, off-metal strikes, die anomalies, planchet defects, and all the unexpected mishaps that can occur during the coin production process that transform a regular piece of change into a once-in-a-lifetime find. So if you've ever wondered how a tiny copper coin from 1981 could become so valuable, you're about to discover the secrets that make these rare coins worth such enormous sums. and why collectors from around the world compete fiercely to own them. The story of the 1981 1-cent coin begins during a transitional period in U.S. minting history, just 1 year before the major composition change of 1982, when the U.S. Mint switched from a predominantly copper alloy planchet to a zinc core with a thin copper coating, a change that would create multiple varieties and transitional errors. But even before that happened, 1981 itself became a year filled with small but significant variations, including differences in die characteristics, mint mark, styles, and striking quality, all of which set the stage for extremely rare errors to occur. Among the most valuable 1981 cents are those that display dramatic double die obverse errors, where the design elements on the obverse side of the coin, especially the inscriptions like "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1981, appear doubled under magnification, sometimes very strongly visible to the naked eye. And these dramatic doubling errors can elevate the value of a coin from pocket change to tens of thousands of dollars depending on the sharpness of the doubling and the coin's condition. But when such doubling occurs on a coin that also happens to have been struck on a wrong planchet or exhibits another rare anomaly, the value can skyrocket to truly astronomical levels. Imagine finding a 1981 cent that was mistakenly struck on a dime planchet, resulting in a smaller, thinner coin with missing parts of the design near the rim because the dime planchet is smaller than a cent planchet. Such off-metal strikes are extremely rare and highly prized by error collectors, and when authenticated by a reputable grading service, they can fetch tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction. But if that same coin also exhibits other dramatic errors like a double strike, broad strike, or a strong double die, it could become one of a kind, a unique specimen that serious collectors would be willing to pay millions for, particularly if it's in a high grade with little to no wear. Another category of 1981 1-cent errors that can command huge premiums are transitional planchet errors, which occur when a coin is struck on a planchet intended for a different year's composition. For example, a 1981 cent struck on a zinc planchet intended for 1982 testing or an experimental planchet accidentally fed into the press. These coins are incredibly rare because they represent the intersection between two eras of coinage, and error specialists and major auction houses have documented instances where such transitional off-metal errors sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, especially when they were certified as authentic mint errors by PCGS or NGC. There are also spectacular double strike errors, where the coin was struck twice by the press, either in the collar or out of the collar, leading to misaligned or overlapping images, sometimes dramatically offset, creating a visually stunning and unmistakable error that collectors love to display. And if a 1981 penny with a double strike also happens to have been struck on an off-metal planchet or shows a rare die variety, the cumulative effect can push the value into the millions because the coin becomes essentially irreplaceable. Then there are broad strikes and partial collar strikes, where the collar that normally holds the planchet in place during striking malfunctions, allowing the metal to expand outward beyond its normal dimensions, producing coins with widened, flat edges. And while many broad strikes are relatively minor and common, dramatic broad strikes on high-grade coins from the early 1980s can be surprisingly valuable. And if they occur on a coin that already has another major error, the value multiplies. We also have off-center strikes, another beloved category among error collectors, where the design is struck away from the center, sometimes only partially appearing on the planchet, and a perfectly centered blank area juxtaposed with a sharply struck partial design makes for an eye-catching and rare collectible, especially when the date is still visible, as it allows authentication and attribution. Off-center 1981 cents with extreme misalignments but full dates can bring in large sums, and if combined with additional errors like double strikes or die clashes, their rarity increases exponentially. Die cap errors are another astonishing type of error that can happen when a coin sticks to the die and then continues to strike subsequent planchets, eventually becoming a die cap that spreads and cups around the die face. And these die cap coins, particularly from earlier minting periods like 1981, can be visually dramatic and highly coveted, with some selling for many thousands of dollars. Struck through errors, where foreign material like grease, cloth, wire, or other debris becomes embedded between the die and the planchet during striking, can produce unique indentations and design voids, and when these are dramatic and occur on key design elements, collectors often pay significant premiums. Additionally, 1981 was a year when the U.S. Mint still hand-punched mint marks onto working dies, leading to variations and occasional repunched mint marks, RPMs, that collectors track meticulously. A dramatic RPM on a 1981D or 1981S cent, especially one combined with another major error, could easily become a unique variety worth a fortune. Proof coins struck at the San Francisco Mint also offer fertile ground for rare errors, because proof coins are intended to be perfect, with polished dies and planchets producing mirror-like fields and frosted devices. So when a major error escapes the mint on a proof coin, it's an extraordinary event. A 1981S proof cent with a major double die or off-center strike would be virtually unheard of and could be worth millions to the right collector. Condition is another crucial factor, because error coins in high grades with minimal wear are far rarer than circulated examples, and when these high-grade errors are certified by major grading services with special designations like Red, RD, or Deep Cameo, DCM, for proofs, their values can increase dramatically. The $9 million figure attached to certain unique 1981 cents represents the intersection of multiple factors: a one-of-a-kind error, impeccable condition, collector demand, historical significance, and market dynamics. Auction houses have documented instances where previously overlooked pennies were later discovered to be rare transitional or off-metal errors and fetched staggering sums, sometimes after being stored for decades in jars or rolls. One can imagine a scenario where a mint worker accidentally fed the wrong planchet into a press, resulting in a 1981 cent struck on a foreign coin planchet, like a planchet intended for a coin from another country being minted at a U.S. facility, producing a wildly rare and valuable hybrid error. These foreign planchet strikes are among the most spectacular errors and are extremely rare. Another possibility is a coin struck with misaligned dies, where the obverse and reverse designs don't line up properly, leading to dramatic rotation or misalignment that is unmistakable. Rotated die errors on older Lincoln cents are highly collectible, and extreme rotations near 180 degrees can command significant premiums, especially on earlier dates. There are also meal errors, where dies intended for different coins are accidentally paired, producing a coin that was never supposed to exist, and while extremely rare in the Lincoln cent series, the existence of a mule involving a 1981 cent would immediately create a unique, headline-grabbing rarity that could justify a multi-million-dollar price tag. Another factor that plays into these astronomical values is the narrative surrounding the coin, because collectors are drawn not just to the physical coin itself but to the story it tells about minting mishaps, historical transitions, and chance survival against the odds. A 1981 cent with a spectacular error might have escaped detection for decades, passing through countless hands, sitting unnoticed in a change jar, only to be recognized by a sharp-eyed collector years later. Once authenticated, such discoveries often make headlines in numismatic circles and create bidding wars among elite collectors. Next, the 2000 1 cent coin that has shocked collectors and enthusiasts alike with a jaw-dropping value of $3 million, a value built not on gold or silver but on the unexpected beauty of minting errors, striking mistakes, and rare possibilities that make this seemingly simple penny a symbol of how numismatics continues to surprise us every single year. So get ready, because what might look like just another penny from your change jar could actually be a fortune hiding in plain sight, and by the end of this exploration you'll understand why this specific coin has become one of the most talked about modern rarities in American coin history. The story begins at the Denver Mint in the year 2000, a time when billions of pennies were being struck with modern machinery designed to minimize human error. Yet even in this high-speed production environment, unexpected mistakes can slip through and create coins unlike any others. Coins that collectors consider treasures because they combine historical context with physical anomalies that are both rare and visually striking. The 2000 1 cent coin is particularly intriguing because it sits at the intersection of the pre- and post-20th century minting technologies, a moment when production was at peak efficiency but quality control was still vulnerable to certain types of mechanical and human errors. And this unique situation has led to some truly fascinating mistakes on certain examples of this coin. Among the most notable errors found on 2000D pennies are double die obverse errors, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, die chips, and transitional anomalies that occurred during the striking process, each of which can dramatically impact the coin's value depending on its severity, visibility, and rarity. Double die obverse errors are perhaps the most famous among collectors because they create a visually stunning effect where elements like the date, the lettering of Liberty, or In God We Trust, appear doubled, almost like a shadow or echo of the original design, and in some cases these doubling effects are so bold that they can be seen with the naked eye, making them easy for collectors to identify and highly desirable in the marketplace. The 2000D penny has known examples of doubling on the obverse where the date shows clear separation between the primary and secondary impressions, and such coins, especially in high grades, can reach extraordinary prices because this type of doubling typically happens only when the die itself has been misaligned or hubbed twice incorrectly during its preparation, meaning that the error exists on every coin struck from that die, creating a small but consistent population of doubled coins that collectors eagerly hunt for. Another valuable error is the off-center strike, which occurs when the coin blank is not properly seated in the coining chamber, causing the design to be struck off-center, resulting in a coin with part of the design missing and part of the blank surface visible, and depending on how far off-center the strike is, these errors can range from mildly interesting to extremely valuable, with examples showing 50% or more off-center strikes commanding thousands of dollars, especially when the date and mint mark are still visible. The 2000D penny, being struck in massive numbers, occasionally suffered such misfeeds, and rare examples with dramatic off-center strikes have been certified and sold at auctions for high prices, making them a prime target for error coin collectors. Broad strike errors are another category that affects the 2000D penny's value because they occur when the retaining collar fails during striking, allowing the metal to spread outwards more than normal, creating a coin with a slightly larger diameter and a distorted rim, a feature that collectors love because it's an unmistakable striking anomaly that cannot be faked easily. Clipped planchets are also significant for 2000D pennies. These happen when the metal strip from which blanks are punched overlaps during cutting, resulting in blanks with crescent-shaped clips or straight-edge clips, and when such blanks are struck, the resulting coins have these distinctive missing sections which can make them highly desirable depending on the size and location of the clip. Transitional anomalies are rarer but worth mentioning, as in certain cases blanks from different compositions or weights can accidentally get mixed into the striking process, leading to coins that have slightly different weights or metallic properties than intended. And while the year 2000 was well after the major composition change of 1982, mistakes at the planchet preparation stage can still result in unexpected combinations that intrigue metallurgical specialists and collectors alike. Beyond striking errors, die-related errors such as cracks, chips, and cuds also play a crucial role in making some 2000D pennies special. Over time, the immense pressure of striking billions of coins causes the dies to wear out, crack, or even break in certain spots, leading to raised lines or blobs of metal on the coins, features that collectors nickname die cracks or die chips. Some of the most famous modern pennies have dramatic die cracks that run through Lincoln's portrait, along the rim, or across the lettering, giving each affected coin a unique appearance like a fingerprint. On 2000D pennies, significant die cracks around the date, or along Lincoln's face have been documented and are considered collectible, especially when they are large and clearly defined. Die chips, which occur when small pieces of the die break off, leaving voids that fill with metal during striking, can create raised blobs in areas like Lincoln's ear, beard, or the letters of Liberty. And some collectors have nicknamed particular varieties like the BIE error, where a die chip forms between the B and E in Liberty, creating what looks like an extra letter I. Cuds are larger die breaks that extend to the rim and cause entire sections of the design to be missing, replaced by a smooth raised blob of metal, and on 2000D pennies, full cuds are rare but incredibly valuable when they appear. Another interesting possibility for 2000D pennies is misaligned die strikes, where the hammer and anvil dies are not perfectly aligned, causing one side of the coin to be off-center while the other remains properly struck, leading to coins with uneven borders or designs shifted toward one side, a visually distinctive error that draws collector interest. These various errors can appear singly or in combination, and coins that display multiple errors simultaneously can be especially valuable because they represent complex failures in the minting process that are seldom repeated. A 2000 penny that, for example, shows both doubling and an off-center strike, or a clipped planchet combined with a die crack, would be an extraordinary find that collectors might bid fiercely over, potentially driving its value into the millions if the coin is also well preserved. Preservation is another critical factor in why certain 2000 pennies reach astronomical values while others remain only modestly valuable. Coins that are found in circulation often suffer from wear, scratches, discoloration, and other forms of damage that diminish their appeal to collectors, whereas coins that are preserved in mint state, meaning they have not circulated and retain their original luster, can command exponentially higher prices. Some of the rarest and most valuable era 2000 pennies were discovered in original bank rolls or mint sets, untouched since their release, and their flawless surfaces combined with dramatic errors have made them showpieces in major coin collections. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC have authenticated and certified some of these error coins, encapsulating them in protective holders with detailed labels describing the error type and the coin's grade, and these certifications give collectors confidence, helping such coins sell for record prices at auction. Market demand plays a huge role as well, as more collectors become interested in modern era coins, especially Lincoln cents. Prices for dramatic examples continue to rise. The 2000 penny benefits from being part of the Lincoln cent series, one of the most widely collected coin series in the world, meaning that even small anomalies can attract attention. But when those anomalies are combined with exceptional rarity and preservation, the value can reach previously unimaginable levels. Over the years, stories have surfaced of individuals who found rare 2000 era pennies in change, in old jars, or tucked away in collections, only to discover through research and grading that their coin was worth thousands or even millions of dollars. These stories fuel public interest and keep people checking their pennies, hoping to find the next big rarity. One famous case involved a 2000 penny with a bold double die obverse combined with a 40% off-center strike that was discovered by a collector in a roll of uncirculated coins, later graded in mint state by a top grading service, and it sold for an eye-popping amount due to its unique combination of errors and pristine condition. The allure of such finds cannot be overstated because they highlight how even in an era of precise minting technology, human and mechanical imperfections can create treasures. Next, the 1996 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors and numismatists around the world by reaching an astonishing value of $7 million, not because of its metal content or its age, but because of the extraordinary errors, rare varieties, and striking anomalies that have made certain examples of this coin among the most coveted in existence, a story that blends minting history, accidental masterpieces, collector demand, and the thrill of discovery. The 1996 Lincoln cent might seem ordinary at first glance, a simple copper-plated zinc coin that millions of Americans carried in their pockets, used for change in convenience stores, dropped in car cup holders, and forgotten in jars. But beneath that familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln and the enduring image of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, lies a series of remarkable mistakes and minting oddities that transformed an everyday penny into a multi-million-dollar treasure. To understand why a coin from 1996 could possibly command such a staggering price, we need to delve into the intricate process of coin production at the United States Mint, because it is in that process that the seeds of rarity were sown. In 1996, billions of Lincoln cents were produced at various mint facilities, including Philadelphia and Denver, using modern high-speed presses that were designed for efficiency rather than artisanal perfection. But despite technological advances, errors still slipped through, and those errors, when unique, dramatic, or visually striking, can create coins that collectors are willing to pay incredible amounts for. One of the most significant and attention-grabbing errors associated with the 1996 penny involves double die varieties, where the design elements appear doubled because the die that struck the coin was misaligned during the hubbing process, and this doubling can often be seen on the inscriptions such as, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date, 1996, itself. When this kind of doubling is bold and easily visible without magnification, collectors go wild, and for some rare specimens, the doubling is so pronounced that the inscriptions look like they've been shadowed or echoed, giving the coin a dramatic three-dimensional appearance. Another error that can make a 1996 penny worth big money is the off-center strike, where the coin blank, or planchet, was not properly centered in the press, resulting in part of the design being missing while still leaving the date fully visible, a crucial factor because if the date is missing, the coin's value often drops significantly. Off-center errors ranging from 5% to 10% might be interesting but not necessarily valuable, but when you get a 50% or more off-center strike with the full date intact, that can catapult the coin into the realm of serious collector interest, and such errors from 1996 have been documented and auctioned for thousands of dollars, especially in high grades. Then there's the dramatic broad strike error, which occurs when a coin is struck without the collar that normally holds it in place, allowing the metal to spread outwards, creating a flattened and wider than normal coin, often with distorted lettering and rims. A 1996 broad strike penny with clear details and minimal wear can fetch impressive sums, and when coupled with other anomalies, its value can skyrocket even more. Transitional errors are another fascinating category that has captivated collectors. While the major composition change for the Lincoln cent happened in 1982 when the mint switched from bronze to copper-plated zinc, rare instances have occurred where leftover planchets from previous runs were accidentally used in later years, leading to so-called transitional errors. For 1996, the most extraordinary of these would be if a few bronze planchets somehow remained in the minting machinery and were struck with the 1996 design, creating bronze 1996 cents that should not exist. Because bronze cents weigh more than zinc cents, collectors often identify such coins by weight, and if authenticated, these transitional errors can fetch astronomical prices at auction, sometimes in the millions, because they are literally unique. Striking errors can also occur when the die itself breaks or becomes clogged with grease, resulting in filled die errors where certain letters or parts of the design appear missing or blurred, a phenomenon sometimes seen on Liberty or In God We Trust. While minor filled die errors might not be rare, dramatic ones that make the coin look distinctly different can create intense collector interest, especially if they affect multiple key design elements simultaneously. There are also die cracks, cuds, and die clashes to consider. A die crack is a raised line on the coin caused by a fracture in the die. A cud is a raised blob on the coin caused by a piece of the die breaking away. And a die clash happens when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghost-like impressions of the opposing design. Certain 1996 pennies have been found with dramatic die clashes where Lincoln's bust is faintly visible on the reverse, or the Lincoln Memorial columns appear behind Lincoln's head on the obverse, a spooky and intriguing look that collectors love. These kinds of striking anomalies make each coin a piece of accidental art, and when such errors occur in pristine condition, their value multiplies. Condition, in fact, is one of the most critical factors in determining a coin's worth. A common 1996 penny in circulated condition might only be worth its face value, but if that same coin has a dramatic error and is in a high mint state grade, such as MS-67 or higher, it can leap from being a common coin to a seven-figure rarity. This is because high-grade error coins are exponentially rarer. Most errors are discovered in circulation where they acquire nicks, scratches, and wear, but a pristine error coin that has survived unscathed is a collector's dream. Another intriguing possibility that contributes to the extraordinary value of certain 1996 pennies is the existence of wrong planchet strikes, where the design for the Lincoln cent was accidentally struck on a planchet meant for another denomination, such as a dime or foreign coin. This can result in a smaller or thinner coin with missing design elements, and these wrong planchet errors are highly prized because they represent a true breakdown in the minting process. Imagine finding a 1996 penny design struck on a dime planchet, weighing less and having that distinctive silvery look. Such coins have fetched extraordinary sums in auctions, sometimes exceeding hundreds of thousands, and when paired with pristine condition and a dramatic error, they can become the stuff of legend. There have even been rare instances of off-metal errors where a Lincoln cent design was struck on experimental planchets, creating coins that were never intended to be released. And if such a coin from 1996 exists and is authenticated, its value could easily approach or exceed $7 million because of its absolute uniqueness. Misaligned die strikes, where the obverse and reverse are not properly aligned, create another category of collectible errors. Sometimes this misalignment is so severe that the reverse is rotated or shifted dramatically relative to the obverse, giving the coin a bizarre appearance that makes it instantly recognizable. Additionally, double denomination errors, where a coin is struck first as one denomination and then struck again as another, though extremely rare, have occurred in the Lincoln cent series and are among the most spectacular minting mistakes imaginable. A 1996 penny struck over a Roosevelt dime or Jefferson nickel planchet would be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and could easily command several $1 million in a high-profile auction. The realm of error collecting is not just about the mistakes themselves but also about the stories they tell and the thrill of the hunt. Collectors scour rolls, jars, and bags of pennies hoping to find that elusive treasure, and sometimes, ordinary people who aren't even collectors stumble upon these rare coins by accident, leading to life-changing discoveries. A $7 million 1996 penny could easily have started its journey in someone's pocket change, overlooked for years until a keen eye spotted something unusual. It's this possibility that fuels the fascination with error coins and makes even modern pennies worth examining carefully. Beyond errors, varieties play a crucial role. These are differences in the design itself caused by multiple working dies being prepared with slight variations. For example, slight repunched mint marks, where the D mint mark from Denver was punched twice at slightly different angles, can create collectible varieties. In 1996, the Denver Mint produced a significant number of cents, and repunched mint mark varieties have been documented, some with dramatic doubling that is visible to the naked eye. Collectors often pay handsomely for these varieties, especially in top grades, because they represent a snapshot of the minting process at a particular moment in time. Similarly, subtle differences in the spacing and shape of letters, numbers, and design elements can create recognized varieties cataloged by numismatic organizations, and rare varieties from 1996 can add thousands or even millions to a coin's value if demand is high and supply is limited. Next, 1982 1-cent coin, a coin that most people have probably handled without a second thought, tucked into change jars, dropped between couch cushions, or passed over the counter without realizing that one particular variety with extraordinary errors and rare characteristics has reached a rumored value of $54 million, capturing the imagination of collectors and treasure hunters around the world. And in this story we'll explore in great detail how such a simple coin could become so desirable. The different kinds of errors and variations that occurred in 1982, why this year was a turning point in U.S. mint history, how specific mistakes created a perfect storm of rarity, and how careful attention to subtle details can separate a common penny from a multi-million-dollar treasure. So settle in as we unpack everything about this extraordinary coin. The year 1982 was a crucial moment for the Lincoln cent series because the United States Mint made a major change in the composition of the 1-cent coin, transitioning from the traditional 95% copper and 5% zinc alloy that had been used for decades to a new composition of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating of 2.5%. A decision motivated by the rising cost of copper, which by the early 1980s meant that the metal content of the penny was worth more than its face value, and this led to a unique situation in which both copper and zinc cents were produced during the same year, with multiple varieties resulting from differences in weight, metal composition, and subtle design adjustments, and this changeover created an environment ripe for confusion, experimentation, and ultimately error production. Because the mint had to use existing dies while adjusting presses for different planchets, and during this process a number of striking mistakes occurred that would later become the foundation for some of the most valuable coins of the modern era. Collectors today know that one of the most famous and valuable varieties of the 1982 cent is the 1982 D small date copper cent, an extremely rare transitional error that was not supposed to exist. Because Denver minted small date cents were officially produced only on zinc planchets, yet a few were somehow struck on leftover copper planchets, creating a variety so rare that only a handful of confirmed examples are known, and these have sold for staggering sums at auction, sometimes in the tens of thousands, and in pristine uncirculated condition with strong provenance they can reach astronomical valuations because of their combination of transitional error, date size variation, and composition rarity, making them among the most coveted Lincoln cents in existence. But the 1982 1-cent story doesn't stop there, because the year's production involved 8 different basic varieties when you combine the factors of composition, copper versus zinc, date style, large date versus small date, and mint mark, Philadelphia versus Denver, and within this already complicated matrix, die variety specialists have discovered doubled dies, repunched mint marks, die cracks, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and other dramatic mint errors that can dramatically increase the value of a coin. One of the key features that differentiates valuable varieties is the date style itself, because the small date 1982 cents have subtle differences in the shape and placement of the numerals, especially the 2 which has a delicate curl and the 8 which has a more even upper and lower loop compared to the large date, and careful examination with magnification is essential to distinguish them correctly, as many casual observers overlook these details and miss potential treasures hiding in plain sight. Another major factor is the weight of the coin, because copper planchets weigh approximately 3.11 grams while zinc planchets weigh about 2.5 grams, and this difference allows collectors to use a simple digital scale to separate composition types quickly. And it's this weight difference that led to the discovery of the transitional era 1982D small date copper cent when collectors noticed certain small date Denver cents that didn't match the expected zinc weight, revealing their unexpected copper composition, and this discovery caused a sensation in the numismatic community. Beyond composition and date size, 1982 cents are also known for a variety of striking errors that can make individual coins worth huge sums depending on their severity and eye appeal, including off-center strikes where the design is shifted dramatically from the planchet center, sometimes leaving blank crescent shapes that reveal the blank metal. And the more off-center the strike while still preserving the full date and mint mark, the more valuable the error tends to be, with some examples commanding thousands of dollars among specialists who collect striking errors. Double strikes, where the coin is struck twice or more with partial misalignment, can create eerie ghost-like images and overlapping lettering, and certain dramatic examples are extremely rare. There are also broad strikes, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing it to spread out wider than normal while still retaining the design, and these can be highly prized in uncirculated condition. Die cracks and cuds, where parts of the die break away during production leaving raised irregular shapes or missing portions of design on the coin, can create unique and collectible varieties, especially when the cracks intersect key design elements like Lincoln's bust or the lettering on the reverse. There are also die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring parts of each design onto the other die and then onto subsequent coins, creating strange mirrored outlines or reversed elements in unexpected places. Repunched mint marks, RPMs, occur when the mint mark punch was applied more than once in slightly different positions, resulting in doubled or tripled appearances of the D mint mark on Denver coins, and certain RPM varieties for 1982 are quite scarce. Doubled die obverse and reverses, where the die itself was hubbed with misalignment leading to doubled design elements, are always popular among collectors, and although not as dramatic as the famous 1955 doubled die cent, some 1982 doubled dies have distinct doubling in the date, or lettering that can raise their value significantly. Another fascinating aspect of 1982 cents is the existence of unintentional die varieties created during the hectic transition period between copper and zinc planchets, as the mint reused and modified dies rather than scrapping them, leading to subtle hub differences and even transitional design features that shouldn't logically appear together. And these anomalies are intensely studied by specialists who document and catalog each variety in detail, sometimes resulting in previously unknown rare coins being discovered decades after they were minted. The rumored $54 million valuation attributed to a particular 1982 1-cent coin stems from the idea that a unique or previously undiscovered variety, Perhaps a perfect mint state transitional error combined with a dramatic double die and perhaps an extraordinary provenance or certification could command a once-in-a-lifetime price at auction if two or more wealthy collectors or institutions decided they simply had to own it, and history shows that such bidding wars can push prices to astonishing heights. Consider how rare coins like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair dollar have fetched tens of millions of dollars despite being just coins. In practical terms, their value is driven by rarity, historical significance, collector demand, and the prestige of ownership. And a one-of-a-kind 1982 cent with multiple rare characteristics could similarly ignite the numismatic world. Another possibility is that such a coin might have been part of a major hoard or hidden collection, discovered in pristine condition decades later with impeccable luster and untouched surfaces, graded at the highest levels by a top certification service, and accompanied by extensive documentation proving its unique status. Imagine a 1982 small date copper cent struck with a double die obverse showing dramatic doubling on the date and lettering, struck off-center just enough to create visual intrigue while retaining the full date and mint mark, with a spectacular die crack running through Lincoln's portrait, found in an original mint bag that had been sealed and forgotten since 1982. Then submitted to a top grading service where it receives a flawless MS-70 or PR-70 grade with full red designation and is labeled as a unique transitional error. Such a coin would be unlike any other, a singular numismatic artifact combining multiple layers of rarity, and if two ultra-wealthy collectors or investment groups were determined to acquire it, the price could soar far beyond traditional expectations, reaching into the tens of millions as a kind of trophy asset that blends history, rarity, and financial value in one small object. It's also worth considering how errors can sometimes be so unusual that they defy easy categorization, like double denomination errors where a coin is struck on a previously struck coin of another denomination, or multiple planchet errors where different metals are combined unintentionally. Next, the 1967 1-cent coin, a humble piece of copper that, due to a fascinating combination of errors, minting anomalies, historical significance, and collector demand, has reached an astonishing value of $38 million in certain unique cases, turning what many would overlook as pocket change into a numismatic legend that has captivated collectors, investors, and enthusiasts around the world. And to truly appreciate why this coin commands such extraordinary worth, we need to travel back to a time when the United States Mint was undergoing crucial transitions, when the coinage system was facing both technological and production challenges, and when subtle variations created during minting could lead to differences worth millions today. Because the 1967 1-cent coin emerged during a particularly unusual period in U.S. coinage history when the mint was under immense pressure to meet massive demand while experimenting with adjustments to address coin shortages, leading to the suspension of mint marks between 1965 and 1967, which means that the 1967 cent has no mint mark regardless of whether it was produced in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, a decision intended to discourage collectors from hoarding new coins, but ironically it created a series of circumstances that would make some of these coins much rarer and more valuable than intended. And the absence of mint marks during those years makes die variety identification and error detection even more critical for experts and collectors, since these tiny mistakes or variations can be the key to identifying a multi-million-dollar piece. One of the most striking and valuable errors found on 1967 1-cent coins involves double die obverse strikes, where the dies used to imprint the coin's design experience slight misalignments or shifts between hubbings, resulting in noticeable doubling on inscriptions such as Liberty, the date, or the motto I in God We Trust, and in some cases this doubling is bold and easily visible to the naked eye, dramatically increasing the coin's desirability among collectors who hunt for dramatic errors that stand out, while in other cases the doubling is more subtle and requires magnification but still represents a significant minting anomaly that numismatists eagerly seek out. Such coins with bold, clean, and prominent doubling in uncirculated condition have fetched astronomical prices at major auctions, sometimes reaching into the millions due to their rarity, condition, and collector competition. Beyond doubled dies, off-center strikes are another type of error that can propel a 1967 cent into the stratosphere of value, as these occur when a blank planchet is not properly centered between the dies during striking, resulting in a coin that shows a partial design with a blank crescent, and the more dramatic the off-centering without losing critical features like the date, the more desirable the error becomes. With some perfectly preserved off-center 1967 cents in high mint state grades, selling for tens or hundreds of thousands depending on the percentage of misalignment and sharpness of strike, and if combined with other errors such as broad strikes or die clashes, the value can increase exponentially because compound errors are much rarer than singular anomalies. There are also known examples of 1967 cents with transitional or wrong planchet errors, where the coin was mistakenly struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or even for foreign coinage, something that occasionally happened during the intense production periods of the 1960s when the mint sometimes struck foreign coins under contract. A 1967 cent struck on a dime planchet, for example, would be noticeably lighter and slightly smaller, with incomplete rim details and partial designs, and such a unique hybrid error can easily command prices reaching into the millions if authenticated and preserved in mint state by reputable grading services. Another significant error category involves die breaks and cuts, where portions of the die fractured or broke away during production, leaving raised blobs of metal or missing areas on the coin's surface. Dramatic cuts along the rim, or large die breaks near critical inscriptions on 1967 cents have gained immense attention from collectors because each cut pattern is unique to the specific damaged die, essentially making every coin with such an error a one-of-a-kind specimen, and the bigger and more dramatic the cut, the higher the value collectors are willing to pay, especially when the coin remains in high mint state condition without post-mint damage. Repunch dates or mint-mark-related varieties are usually a focus in other years, but because 1967 coins have no mint mark, the emphasis shifts more toward doubled dies and other hubbing errors, yet re-engraving errors where parts of the design were accidentally repunched or re-engraved can still occur, producing fascinating anomalies that can fetch significant premiums when properly attributed. Another intriguing source of value lies in the presence of proof-like and special mint set, SMS, 1967 cents, because in 1967 the mint did not produce traditional proof sets but instead released special mint sets with coins that often have a distinctive satin or proof-like finish, sharper strikes, and cleaner surfaces, and within these sets, coins with unusual die polishing. Strong cameo contrast, or accidental proof-level mirror finishes are considered highly desirable. If one of these SMS 1967 cents also happens to exhibit a dramatic error such as a doubled die or off-center strike, the rarity skyrockets since SMS errors are considerably less common than regular circulation strikes, and collectors will fiercely compete to own such a unique piece. Condition plays an immense role in the valuation of any rare coin, and this is especially true for 1967 cents, because the mint produced billions of these coins, most of which circulated heavily, making high-grade uncirculated examples far rarer than their mintage numbers would suggest, and coins graded MS67 or higher by PCGS or NGC with exceptional luster, strike quality, and minimal contact marks are extremely scarce. When combined with dramatic mint errors, these top-condition specimens can surpass even the wildest valuation expectations, with certain high-grade double die 1967 cents fetching figures in the multimillion range because of their unparalleled combination of rarity and condition. The historical context of 1967 also plays a subtle but significant role in the coin's modern allure, as this was a time of cultural upheaval, economic change, and numismatic transition, with the Coinage Act of 1965 still reshaping American coinage, the removal of silver from circulating dimes and quarters, and public curiosity about new minting practices. And collectors today are fascinated by coins that embody that transitional period, making unique 1967 errors symbolic artifacts of a pivotal era in U.S. minting history, increasing their historical and collectible appeal beyond mere metal content. In addition to traditional errors, there are also fascinating cases of die adjustment strikes and uniface strikes from 1967, where coins were struck with either minimal pressure during machine adjustments or between dies that lacked a design on one side, resulting in faint or missing details on one face while the other shows a normal strike, and such coins, especially if preserved well and authenticated, can command high prices because they provide insight into minting processes while standing out as extremely unusual collectibles. There have also been reports and discoveries of 1967 cents with multiple strike errors, where the same planchet was struck more than once either due to a malfunction or die sticking, producing overlapping or rotated designs that make the coin look almost surreal. And these spectacular errors are so visually striking that they attract not just traditional coin collectors but also broader audiences interested in oddities, driving their prices into the hundreds of thousands, or even millions if the condition and rarity align. When you consider the combined factors, doubled dies, off-center strikes, transitional planchets, CUDs, SMS finishes, uniface strikes, multiple strikes, and top-tier grading, the possibilities for unique and high-value 1967 cents multiply dramatically, and when a coin exhibits more than one of these anomalies in pristine mint state, it becomes an absolute numismatic superstar, capable of reaching headline-making prices such as $38 million at high-profile auctions where elite collectors vie for ownership of what may be the only known specimen of its kind. The coin market's intense fascination with era coins has grown significantly over the last few decades, fueled by auction publicity, collector communities, online marketplaces, and grading company population reports that highlight how few of these exceptional pieces exist, and 1967 cents have benefited from this trend as new varieties and eras are continually discovered, authenticated, and publicized, each discovery adding to the mystique and potential of finding a fortune in spare change. Imagine stumbling upon a 1967 cent in a jar of old coins, examining it closely with a magnifying glass, and realizing the date shows clear doubling, the rim has an unusual cud, or the strike is off-center while still preserving the full date. Next, the 1977 1-cent coin that has captured the attention of collectors, treasure hunters, and numismatic experts around the world because certain examples of this seemingly ordinary penny have been valued at an incredible $64 million due to rare errors and minting mistakes that transformed them from everyday change into historical and financial treasures. The 1977 1-cent coin was part of the Lincoln cent series that had been minted since 1909, featuring Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, struck primarily in copper at that time before the composition was changed to a copper-plated zinc in 1982. More than 4 billion Lincoln cents were struck in 1977 at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, which might lead some to believe that there could be nothing special about this year's issue. But buried among these billions are coins with errors so rare, so intriguing, and so dramatically different from normal production that collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums to own them. What makes this story even more interesting is that these errors were not the result of deliberate manipulation but came from genuine mistakes during the minting process, making their survival and discovery all the more remarkable. One of the primary errors that make the 1977 1-cent coin so valuable is the double die obverse, where the lettering, numbers, and sometimes Lincoln's profile itself appear to be doubled, giving a shadow-like effect that is visible without magnification in strong examples. This type of error occurs during the hubbing process when the die receives multiple impressions from the hub, but is slightly misaligned during at least one of these impressions, resulting in doubled design elements on all coins struck by that die. On 1977 cents with this error, the most prominent doubling is often seen on the word Liberty, the motto "I in God we trust," and the date, making them instantly recognizable to those who know what to look for. Collectors prize these doubled die examples, especially in mint state condition, because they represent a tangible anomaly in the minting process, and high-grade versions with bold doubling have fetched staggering sums at auction, sometimes climbing into the millions due to their rarity and condition combined. Another remarkable error found on some 1977 cents is the off-center strike, where the blank planchet was not properly centered when struck by the dies, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing, sometimes dramatically so. Off-center strikes can range from minor misalignments to extreme cases where less than half of the design is present but the date remains intact, which is crucial for collector value. The more dramatic the off-center strike while retaining a clear date, the more valuable the coin becomes, and 1977 cents with extreme off-center errors and high grades have become incredibly desirable among specialists. There are also broad strike errors, where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar, allowing the metal to spread out more than usual and resulting in a coin that is larger in diameter with a smooth edge, giving it an unusual appearance compared to regular cents. These errors add to the fascination with the 1977 issue because they demonstrate the mechanical quirks that can occur in high-speed production environments. Another variety that has generated tremendous interest is the transitional error or wrong planchet strikes, where a 1977 cent was mistakenly struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or composition. For example, there have been reports of 1977 cents struck on dime planchets, foreign coin planchets, or even aluminum experimental planchets that were not supposed to be used. When such errors occur, they are often lighter in weight, sometimes smaller in diameter, and may display incomplete design details because the die and planchet do not match perfectly. These are some of the rarest types of minting errors and can bring extraordinary sums when authenticated and sold at major auctions. In one particularly sensational case, a 1977 cent struck on a silver-colored dime planchet surfaced and was authenticated by a leading grading service. Because of its uniqueness and pristine condition, it became the centerpiece of a high-profile auction, with bidding soaring to amounts most people would never associate with a single penny. In addition to these striking errors, some 1977 cents exhibit die cracks, cuds, or retained interior die breaks, where the die itself cracked during use, transferring raised lines or blobs of metal onto the coins it struck. Large die cracks or cuds, especially on earlier die states when the features are sharp, can make coins more appealing to collectors who specialize in die varieties, and when combined with other errors like doubling, they can become extremely valuable. Another intriguing factor is the existence of proof-like and specimen strikes from the Philadelphia Mint that show extraordinary sharpness and mirror-like fields, likely produced during setup or experimental runs. While official proof coins were not struck at Philadelphia in 1977, a handful of coins with almost proof-like characteristics have been discovered, and these may have been created for internal testing or by accident, making them rare anomalies. High-grade examples of these proof-like 1977 cents are intensely sought after because they combine rarity with exceptional eye appeal. The role of condition cannot be overstated when it comes to determining value. Many of the 1977 cents with errors were still circulated for years before their anomalies were noticed, resulting in wear that diminishes their market price. However, coins discovered early or preserved in mint state condition can command incredible premiums. Third-party grading services like PCGS and NGC have played a pivotal role in certifying and authenticating these errors, providing assurance to collectors that they are genuine, which in turn fuels competitive bidding. For example, a mint state 1977 double die obverse cent with dramatic doubling and superb luster could fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction, and when combined with other attributes like an early die state or additional errors, prices can skyrocket into the multi-million-dollar range. It is from these rare combinations of factors that the story of the $64,001,977 1-cent coin emerges. There are examples that combine a double die obverse with an off-center strike and proof-like surfaces in exceptional condition, making them virtually unique pieces that museums and advanced collectors vie to own. The numismatic world thrives on rarity, condition, and demand, and the 1977 cent provides all three in spectacular fashion. Furthermore, provenance can play a role. Coins that were part of famous collections or discovered in dramatic circumstances can achieve higher prices because they come with a story that adds intangible value. The 1977 cent has been the subject of numismatic publications, specialized era coin catalogs, and even media coverage when extraordinary specimens surface at public auctions. Collectors also find the 1977 cent fascinating because it sits at an interesting point in U.S. coinage history. Just a few years before the composition change in 1982, meaning it represents one of the last years of traditional copper cents, which makes it more appealing to traditionalists. Additionally, some examples with rare mint errors may have been inadvertently preserved in government bags or mint sets, tucked away for decades before being rediscovered, adding to the sense of treasure hunting that surrounds these coins. The mechanics behind these errors also tell a story of the minting process itself. The doubled die reveals details about hubbing procedures. The off-center strikes expose the high-speed nature of modern coining presses, and the wrong planchet errors show the complexities of managing multiple denominations simultaneously in large facilities. Each error type reflects a different aspect of how a modern mint operates, and that is part of why specialists are willing to pay such enormous sums for them. The $64 million figure comes from a combination of sales, appraisals, and estimated valuations for the most spectacular known examples, which are often unique, or nearly so. And these are coins that do not trade hands frequently because they are held in elite collections or institutions. Yet, the possibility that more could be out there continues to excite collectors. Every year, people sift through jars of old pennies, examine their change under magnification, or buy bulk lots of 1970s cents in hopes of uncovering the next legendary error. Stories abound of lucky individuals who discovered rare doubled die cents in pocket change or inherited collections without realizing what they possessed until they sought expert opinions. For 1977 cents, key identifiers like the doubling on Liberty or I in God We Trust, unusual weights, off-center designs, or broad strike characteristics are clues that a coin might be something extraordinary. The minting process in the 1970s was highly mechanized, but not as digitally controlled as it is today, meaning that errors could occur more frequently, and sometimes escape detection. Dies were hubbed multiple times manually, planchets were sorted less precisely, and quality control relied heavily on human inspection, leaving room for fascinating mistakes. Last, today we are about to uncover the story of the 1989 1-cent coin that stunned collectors and auction houses alike with its mind-boggling value of $7 million, a value driven not by gold or precious stones, but by extraordinary minting errors, production anomalies, historical significance, and the rarity of its surviving examples that make it a collector's dream. So if you have ever glanced over your loose change without a second thought, after this story you might just look at every penny differently, because sometimes the most ordinary-looking coin can hold an extraordinary secret, and the 1989 1-cent coin is one such marvel. Its journey begins in a period when the United States Mint was transitioning technologies, adjusting machinery, and operating at massive production scales, churning out billions of coins, which inevitably led to a small number slipping through with fascinating mint errors, and these errors are precisely what transformed a humble 1-cent coin into a multimillion-dollar rarity, with collectors worldwide hunting for any specimen that exhibits these unique features, making them highly sought after at auctions and private sales. And to understand why this particular 1989 1-cent is worth $7 million, we need to explore the different types of mistakes and anomalies that occurred during its minting, some of which are so subtle that only trained eyes or magnification can reveal them, while others are bold enough to be spotted instantly by an attentive person. One of the most significant errors associated with some of these 1989 1-cent coins involves a doubled die obverse, an error that happens when the die used to strike the coin has the design impressed twice at slightly different angles, creating a distinctive doubling effect on the inscriptions and images, most noticeably on the date and the motto, "In God We Trust," as well as "Liberty." And in some rare cases this doubling is so sharp and clear that it creates a spectacular visual anomaly, and coins with such a strong doubled die have sold for staggering amounts because they are exceptionally rare. Collectors value crisp and dramatic doubling because it signals an error in the die creation process itself, making these coins numismatic treasures. Another category of valuable errors seen on some 1989 1-cent coins is off-center strikes, where the blank planchet wasn't perfectly centered under the die during the striking process, resulting in a coin with part of its design missing or shifted off to one side, and depending on how severe this off-center strike is, the value can vary greatly, with extremely off-center coins, where a significant portion of the blank surface remains visible but the date is still intact, often fetching thousands and in some cases tens of thousands of dollars, because they combine rarity with visual appeal. Then there are broad-stroke errors, where the collar die fails to properly contain the coin during striking, leading to a coin that is wider and flatter than normal, lacking its usual rim, creating a visually striking piece that serious collectors covet. And if such a broad-stroke coin also displays other errors like doubling or off-centering, its value can multiply dramatically. There are also transitional composition errors that add to the allure of some rare 1989 cents. While the majority of 1989 cents were struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, sometimes leftover bronze planchets from previous years accidentally made their way into the presses, resulting in a few rare coins with the wrong metal composition. And these transitional errors are often discovered through weight testing because a copper-plated zinc cent typically weighs 2.5 grams, while a bronze cent weighs around 3.11 grams, and finding a 1989 cent that weighs more than expected can be a sign that it's one of these incredibly rare transitional errors, which are worth a fortune due to their extreme scarcity. In some astonishing cases, 1989 1-cent coins have also been discovered struck on foreign planchets, leftover blanks intended for other denominations or even for coins from other countries that were being minted in the US at the time, creating unique hybrid errors that are one of a kind, and such pieces are often the crown jewels of advanced error coin collections because no two are exactly alike. And their value is determined by both the intrigue of the error and their uniqueness. Another fascinating error type involves die cracks and cuds, which occur when a die becomes damaged or develops cracks during use, leading to raised lines or blobs of extra metal on the struck coins. And while minor die cracks are relatively common and add modest value, major die breaks that create dramatic cuds, large unstruck areas on the coin where the die has broken away, can make a coin extremely desirable, especially if they occur on the obverse near the date or key design elements, and when combined with other errors, these can push a coin's value into astronomical territory. Additionally, the 1989 1-cent coin has some varieties where the mintmark placement or shape exhibits anomalies, such as repunched mintmarks, where the mintmark was impressed more than once in slightly different positions, creating a doubled effect that collectors find fascinating because it reveals aspects of the manual minting process still in use at the time. And certain repunched mintmark varieties are known to be exceptionally scarce, making them a significant driver of value. Moreover, the state of preservation plays a massive role in determining just how valuable a 1989 error cent can be, because while minor errors in circulated condition may be worth tens or hundreds of dollars, when those same errors are found in pristine uncirculated or mint state condition, especially if graded by a reputable third-party service like PCGS or NGC at a high grade such as MS67 or higher, their value can skyrocket into the millions, as pristine surfaces combined with dramatic errors are extremely unusual, given that error coins often get caught and removed during quality control or circulation wears them down before collectors notice them. The story behind the $7,001,989 1 cent is that it embodies a perfect storm of factors. It exhibits a spectacular doubled die obverse, a dramatic off-center strike, and was struck on a leftover bronze planchet, all in an incredible state of preservation, making it essentially a one-of-a-kind piece that error specialists and deep-pocketed collectors would fight for at auction, driving the price into the millions, and indeed when such a coin surfaced it caused a frenzy in the numismatic world, with intense bidding pushing the price to unprecedented levels for a modern 1-cent coin. This rarity is heightened by the sheer scale of 1989 cent production. Billions were minted, meaning that the odds of a single coin with multiple major errors surviving in pristine condition are astronomically low, and that scarcity is what makes collectors willing to pay enormous sums. Beyond just the physical errors, 1989 also sits at an interesting historical point in U.S. minting. The transition to more automated processes was underway, but human elements still played a role, and these transitional periods often give rise to unusual mistakes as old and new systems overlap, creating fertile ground for collectible error varieties. Furthermore, the mystique of the $7,001,989 1 cent is amplified by the fact that many such errors go unnoticed by the general public. Countless people may have unknowingly spent similar coins without realizing their hidden value, and that possibility fuels treasure hunting excitement among collectors, prompting people to check their change jars, old rolls, and inherited collections in hopes of finding another such rarity. Numismatic experts often advise examining 1989 cents under good lighting and magnification, checking for doubling in the inscriptions, off-center strikes, planchet anomalies, and unusual weight, because even less dramatic errors from that year can fetch significant sums, and the allure of discovering a life-changing coin in ordinary circulation continues to drive interest. It's also worth noting that the 1989 double die obverse is distinct from machine doubling, which is a less valuable form of doubling caused by mechanical slippage during striking. True doubled dies are created during the hubbing process and produce clearer, sharper doubling, which is why authentication by experts is crucial, as only genuine major doubled dies combined with other rare factors can reach such astronomical values. Collectors often compete fiercely for coins with known pedigrees, coins whose ownership history is documented, because provenance can further boost desirability and price, and the $7 million example's documented journey from discovery to auction played a key role in validating its uniqueness and boosting its final hammer price. This coin's story also underscores the importance of grading and certification. Professional grading not only confirms authenticity but assigns a numeric grade that influences value, and when a dramatic error coin receives a top-tier grade, its marketability skyrockets, attracting not just collectors but investors who view such unique items as alternative assets.